last part of day 1 of lesson C2 is knowing how to graph and slope intercept form of an equation. When you're graphing in slope intercept form, up to this point, when you were given an equation, you would have made a table. You would have plotted the points, and you would have drawn a straight line. We want to use this other way now, and the easier way to use is to use our slope and our y-intercept, and to help us find points. So the method is much faster than what you did before because you don't have to substitute in and solve all those. The key thing is as you look at this equation. First step, identify your y-intercept. And as we look at the y-intercept, we know the y-intercept is -1. Remember, it's an ordered pair. It is on the y-intercept. It's at this point 0, 1. So that's where you would start if you don't have anything on your graph paper. You put a big point at 0, -1. We now take a look at our slope, and remembering slope is simply the number, the 2, and when you look at that 2, we always want to write it as a fraction. So every number can be written as a fraction, so we have 2 over 1. What does that tell us to do? Well, remember, slope, the definition we said was rise over run. So if slope is rise over run, that means from this initial point at 0, -1, we want to rise 2 and go over 1 to the right. We're going to do that again. Rise 2 over 1 to the right. Now, if your graph you can't continue going up, you go back to the original point, and the opposite of going up 2 is to go down 2, and then go back 1. Once you have 3 or 4 points on your line, draw the line through those points. You are now going to try this with this next point, and then part of our assignment that we'll work on in class is for you to practice more of these. Some equations will be given in this nice form, slope-intercept, some will not. So when you take a look at it, step 1, what is our y-intercept, our B point? B is always the starting point, and in this case 0, 2. It is our start point on the graph. So if we put down our start point, 0, 2 means up to a positive 2. Remember, key thing, it's on the y-axis, y-intercept. Second thing you're going to do is use your slope. Our slope, or our m, was a -2/3. I like to think of the negative going with the numerator, but it doesn't really matter. Remember, negative tells us to go down, in this case 2, and then the +3 would be telling us to go to the right. So slope is down 2 over 1, 2, 3. Now I can't continue going down 2 and over 3 because it goes off my graph. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go up 2. If I go up 2, I'm at 4, back 3. Now, one of the questions I often have students ask is, well, how do I know if I did it right, Mrs. Thompson, and does this make sense, and how could I check it? So I want to show you a way that you can check it with these points. And the key thing as you look at these is remembering that your line, when you make that line, always actually has these arrows on it. Now my line is just a little off up here. Should have been right through these 2 points, and without a straight edge sometimes you're off. But where is this point located? This point is located over at -3, 4. Remember, at the beginning of the lesson we said every point on the line must make it true. And if I pick any one of these points, and this one's even probably a little easier to pick, this one is located over at 3, 0. It needs to make this equation true. So if you're going to do the check, I don't have to have you do the check every time, but when you're on a quiz or a test, you want to make sure by plugging in this point it works. This one I think is a much easier point to pick. We put in our y point. If we look at our y, it's 0. Okay, because remember, x, y, 0 equals -2/3 times 3 plus 2. This is going to leave us with -2 plus 2, which equals 0, and it checks. And if you would plug this point in also, you would find that this should come out that 4 is equal to -2/3 times a -3. So it checks, and you are ready to do some graphing. The last part that we want to look at is looking at a story situation. In a story situation, can you make a graph? Can you write an equation? So you're both asked to write the equation and graph it. Here are some key words. The plumber charges $65 for repair plus $35 per hour. It says write an equation for the total cost. Well, keeping in mind y equals mx plus b. Again, start point is b. M is our slope, oftentimes referred to as the rate of change as we started the unit. If you're looking at the rate of change, sometimes my pen doesn't work too great on this tablet, so rate of change. The rate of change is how much they're charging us per hour. So that word per, that almost is always with your slope. That's a key phrase when you look at a sentence and trying to figure out your slope. Per should really help you identify. So y is equal in this case to $35 per hour, plus they charge you an initial fee of $65. What does that mean? Initially they're charging us at 0 hours $65, which isn't real, gonna happen. But then each time we are going to go up as we go 1 hour. This would be our time. This would be our dollars if we're labeling our graph. Notice they always have the y and x. You need to be putting that also. We are now going up to the next one, which will give us close to, if we are doing this, 35 plus 65, we are really close to right at 100. We're going to go up another 35. And as we keep doing this, as we go up our graph, and again, you can find exactly where these points are if we are looking at it, but we would have a nice line for that equation. So the second part of your assignment is going to be to do some graphing. You're going to be given graph paper. You're going to be doing some of these. You're also going to be doing a pizzazz, a joke worksheet to work with. Remember, when you get the second half of this assignment in the textbook, you have to get the y by itself. You cannot graph these unless you have y equals the mx plus b, unless you're making the table. And let me tell you, the table takes a lot more time. Hope this is making sense, and we'll be working with it in class.